strange encounter. The evening sky was glowing with strange colors. The marketplace of the alien city was alive with hundreds of voices. Ships landed and lifted off, and bright neon lights flickered against the misty air. In the center of the busy street stood a small cafe. It looked ordinary, but for a tired human traveler, it was the only place to rest. He pushed the door open. The sound of a small bell rang above. The smell of unknown spices mixed with roasted beans filled his lungs. His boots left a trace of dust on the shiny floor. Aliens of different shapes sat at tables, tall ones with crystal eyes, short ones with scaled arms, and a few who looked like shadows. All turned their heads to see him, a human. He walked in slowly, feeling dozens of curious stares, but he kept his calm. His eyes scanned the room until they landed on her, the waitress. She was small compared to others. Her skin had a faint glow. Her large silver eyes blinked fast as if she was not ready to see a human walk in. She held a tray close to her chest. Her lips trembled slightly. "Table?" she asked in a shaky voice, her accent sharp yet soft. The human nodded. She quickly guided him to a corner seat. Every step she took seemed heavy, as if her legs wanted to run away, but her duty kept her near him. The man sat down, leaned back, and tried to look normal. He had seen strange worlds before. He had faced worse dangers than unfriendly eyes. Still, there was something about this waitress. She was staring at him too long. Her hands shook when she placed the menu in front of him. He gave a polite smile. "Thank you," he said, his voice calm, steady. Her eyes widened. Her body froze for a second. She whispered something in her own tongue under her breath, something that sounded like disbelief. He looked at the menu, strange letters he could not read, yet he pointed at a picture of a steamin'. "Gee, drink." She nodded nervously and hurried away, but not before sneaking one last glance at his hands. The cafe returned to its normal sound, whispers, quiet laughter, dishes clinking, but not for her. Behind the counter she kept staring. She poured the drink with trembling fingers. Every time her eyes drifted back to him, her heart raced. She carried the drink back, placed it gently before him, and before she could leave, he noticed a small device on the table. One of the alien coins rolled off and dropped near his feet. He bent down to pick it up. The coin was heavy, more than it looked. When he picked it up, his hand pressed it slightly, and to his surprise, the metal bent, just a little, but enough to leave a dent. He frowned. It was not hard for him, but when he placed the coin back on the table, silence swept the cafe. Every alien eye was locked on him. The waitress gasped loudly. Her tray slipped from her fingers. Drinks crashed on the floor, and before she could speak another word, her knees gave way. She fainted right there. Chairs scraped, whispers turned into shouts. The cafe was no longer calm. Some aliens rushed forward, some backed away in fear. The human stood quickly, trying to understand what had just happened. He looked at the dented coin, confused. For him it was nothing. His hand strength was normal, but the aliens were acting as if he had broken a sacred stone. The waitress lay on the floor, her chest rising and falling as she tried to breathe, her silver eyes flickering open for a second only to whisper, "Impossible. Human. Impossible." Before her eyes closed again, the human crouched down beside her, trying to help, his voice calm yet worried. "Are you all right?" But nobody answered. The alien stared at him like he had done something beyond nature. In that moment he felt it. The air in the cafe grew heavy. The eyes on him carried both fear and awe. He had done something so ordinary for him, yet it had shattered their sense of reality. The waitress's hand twitched. Her fingers brushed against his wrist. Her lips moved weakly. "Do it again. One more time." Then she lost consciousness fully. The human sat back slowly, confusion in his eyes, questions running through his mind. He had no idea why such a small act could make her faint, but he knew one thing clearly. This was only the beginning, and whatever just happened had changed the way every alien in that cafe looked at him. Morning sun rose above the alien city. Its rays painted the towers in golden and green light. Streets filled again with voices. Merchants shouted, children ran, guards patrolled, yet one place buzzed louder than all. The cafe where the human had sat the night before. The waitress lay in her small room behind the counter, her head still dizzy. Her silver eyes blinked open slowly. Memories of last night burned in her mind. The human's hand, the dented coin, the impossible sight. She pressed her palms against her chest, her heart thumping fast. She whispered, "It cannot be true. No one can bend a coin like that, not even our strongest warriors." But outside, whispers had already spread. Customers who had seen the act retold the story, each word heavier than the last. Some said the human crushed the coin with 2 fingers. Some said he could melt metal with his skin. Others swore the waitress fainted because she felt his power. By midday, the rumor had reached every street corner. The human walked down the crowded road unaware of how famous he had become overnight. His face calm, but he noticed eyes following him, pointing fingers, hushed voices. He frowned, wondering why strangers looked at him with both fear and fascination. At the cafe, the waitress returned to her duty, though her hands still shook. When she saw him at the door again, her breath caught in her throat. She hurried to him, her voice low. "Why did you come back, Du? Oh, you not know what you have done?" The human tilted his head, confused. "I only picked up a coin," he answered simply. She stared at him, disbelief painted on her glowing face. "A coin that none of us could ever bend, not even with tools. And you did it with your bare hand," she whispered. Around them, customers leaned closer. Whispers grew louder. "Show us again, human. Do it one more time," a tall alien shouted from another table. Others nodded eagerly, the room filled with tension, all waiting. The human looked around, uneasy. His heart told him not to draw more attention, but the pressure of dozens of stares forced him. The waitress's eyes wide, her lips trembling. He reached for another coin, lifted it, pressed gently, and the same dent appeared. Metal groaned softly under his fingers. The cafe erupted, gasps, shouts, chairs scraping against the floor. Some aliens stood in awe, some dropped to their knees, others ran outside yelling the news. The waitress covered her mouth, her knees almost giving way again, but this time, she did not faint. Instead, she whispered, "It is true. It is really true." The human placed the coin back on the table, shaking his head. "This is nothing. Why are you acting like this?" His voice calm yet firm, but no one believed his words. To them, he was no longer just a traveler. He was something more. By afternoon, the story spread like fire. In the market square, groups gathered, retelling how the human bent the unbendable coin. Some claimed he was chosen by the ancient stars. Some believed he was a danger. Others thought he might be a savior. And through it all, the waitress's name was whispered too, for she was the one who witnessed it first. She tried to hide behind her counter, but customers did not leave her alone. "Tell us, what did he do? Was it real?" they asked again and again. Her voice shook as she answered, "It was real. I saw it with my own eyes. It was no trick." But with each word she spoke, her fear grew, because she knew what this meant. Stories like these did not stay harmless. Soon officials, warriors, maybe even hunters would come. Once power like this was known, it could never be ignored. That night, when the cafe was empty, she found the human sitting quietly at the corner table, sipping the strange drink he had ordered before. She sat opposite him, her voice hushed. "You do not understand. You have started something dangerous. They will not leave you alone now." The human leaned back, his eyes steady. "I never wanted attention," he said softly, "but I cannot change who I am." She trembled, torn between fear and fascination. "Do you even know what you mean to us? Do you know why that coin matters?" she asked. He shook his head. Silence stretched between them. Finally, she leaned closer, her silver eyes reflecting the faint light. "That coin is sacred, forged in a way that resists all force. It is a symbol of our endurance, our pride, and you bent it as if it were clay." Her voice cracked. "To my people, you are either a miracle or a threat." The human's jaw tightened, the weight of her words sinking deep. He looked around the empty cafe, shadows stretched long, his voice low. "Then I suppose the choice is not mine anymore." The waitress shivered, her hands clutched the table. Outside, more footsteps echoed, more voices called his name. Rumors had turned into belief, and belief was about to turn into something even more dangerous. The next day dawned heavy, clouds swirled like smoke above the alien city. Voices of the marketplace were restless. Everyone talked of one thing, the man who bent the sacred coin. Some spoke with excitement, others with fear, but all waited for what would happen next. The human walked the streets quietly, yet every step followed by whispers. Eyes turned to him, children pointed, guards muttered, shopkeepers lowered their voices. He had become the center of a storm without asking for it. At the cafe, the waitress stood nervously by the door, her silver eyes scanning the crowd. She knew he would come back. She knew trouble would follow. Her heart pounded when she saw him approach, calm as always, his steps steady. Inside, the cafe was full, not with ordinary customers, but with strangers from far districts, tall warriors with glowing tattoos, merchants dressed in silk, priests with sharp crowns. They had all come for one reason, to see the human. The human entered, Silence swept across the room. Dozens of alien eyes locked on him. He walked to his usual corner, sat down without a word. The waitress brought him water with trembling hands, her voice soft. "Please, do not do anything this time." But her plea was drowned by a booming voice. "Human!" A tall warrior rose from his seat, his armor glowing faintly, his arms thick as stone, his eyes burning with challenge. "Show us again. Show us your power. Bend the coin before us all." The room stirred, voices clashed, some shouted encouragement, others demanded silence, but the warrior's command hung heavy. The human looked at him calmly, his voice even. "I have no interest in games." The warrior slammed his fist on the table, metal rattled. "You cannot hide. We all heard the stories, we saw the truth. If you will not show us willingly, then face me in a trial." Gasp spread, the waitress's breath caught. She shook her head. "No, not a trial," she whispered. But no one listened. The crowd demanded spectacle. The human stood slowly, his chair scraping against the floors. Or, his eyes on the warrior, his voice calm. "I came here to rest, not to fight, but if you force me, I will not step back." The challenge was set. The warrior tossed a fresh coin on the table, its surface shining, unbroken, untouched. He pointed at it, his voice loud. "Do it now, human. Prove your strength before all." The human looked at the coin, his fingers brushed against it. He knew what would happen, yet something inside him hesitated. He turned to the waitress. Her silver eyes begged him not to. Her lips trembled with fear, but the crowd's voices grew, echoing like thunder. "Do it! Do it!" they chanted. Pressure pressed down on him like a storm. He sighed, lifted the coin, and pressed it gently. The sound of bending metal echoed sharp and clear. The dent appeared once more, the coin misshaped, broken from its perfect form. Silence followed, then chaos, voices shouting, some cheering, some horrified. The warrior's eyes widened. For a moment even he was speechless. Then his voice roared. "Impossible! No being should do this. Not even the chosen of the ancients." His fists clenched. "If you can bend coins, then you can bend bones. You are dangerous human. Prove your control in combat." The waitress cried out, her voice shaking. "Stop! Please stop! He is not your enemy!" But her voice was drowned by the crowd again. The human stood tall, his face calm but his heart heavy. He had not come to fight, yet fate had placed him here. The warrior stepped forward, fists glowing with energy. The trial was about to begin. Suddenly, the human spoke, his tone sharp enough to cut through the noise. "If you want to test me, then know this. I will not harm you unless you leave me no choice." His words struck like steel. The crowd fell quiet for a moment. The waitress grabbed his arm, her hands trembling. "Do not. They will not stop until one of you falls," she whispered, her fear clear, her heart torn between awe and dread. The warrior smirked, raising his fists. "Then let us see if the rumors are true. Let us see if a human can stand against the strength of our kind." His voice thundered through the cafe. The human clenched his jaw, ready to face what came. The waitress's eyes widened, her body frozen. Around them, the crowd pressed closer, eager, hungry for spectacle. And in that heavy silence before the storm, one truth became clear. This was no longer about a coin. This was about survival, power, and what it meant to be human in a world that could not understand him. The cafe air was heavy, like a storm waiting to break. The warrior stood tall, his fists glowing faintly. The human stood calm, his hands empty, his eyes steady. The crowd held its breath. Even the smallest sound felt too loud. The waitress's heart pounded, her silver eyes wide. She wanted to scream, to stop what was about to happen, but her voice was too weak against the roar of the crowd. Everyone wanted proof. Everyone wanted blood. The warrior stepped closer, his voice booming. "You bent the sacred coin, human. Now you must prove if your strength is real or just a trick." His tone was filled with challenge and anger. The human lifted his chin, his voice low but firm. "I do not wish to fight, but I will not run." His words carried across the room like iron. The crowd gasped. Whispers rose again. The warrior swung first, his fist like a hammer. The air cracked with force. The human dodged smoothly, his movement fast but controlled. The blow shattered the wooden table behind him, splinters flying. The crowd cried out. The human's hand shot out. He caught the warrior's second punch midair, his grip tight. The sound of bones straining echoed. The warrior's eyes widened. Pain flickered across his face. The human let go before breaking him, his voice steady. "I do not want to hurt you." Silence, thick and heavy, spread across the cafe. The warrior stepped back, clutching his fist, disbelief painted on his face. The crowd murmured in awe and fear. Silence, thick and heavy, spread across the cafe. The warrior stepped back, clutching his fist, disbelief painted on his face. The crowd murmured in awe and fear. The waitress moved forward, her voice trembling but strong enough this time. Do you not see? He has strength, yes, but he also has control. He is not here to harm us. Her words echoed through the stunned silence. The warrior lowered his head, shame and respect mixing in his eyes. He spoke slowly. You are more than we believed. Then he stepped back into the crowd, defeated not by pain, but by restraint. But the peace lasted only a moment. From the corner of the room, a priest in long robes stood, his voice sharp like a blade. Do not be fooled. This human is no accident. He is part of the prophecy. The human turned his head, frowning. Prophecy, he repeated. The crowd gasped again. The waitress froze, her lips pressed tight. She whispered under her breath, No, they cannot know. The priest raised his hands. Long ago, it was written that a stranger from the stars would bend the unbendable, that his touch would change the fate of our kind. Some call him savior, some call him destroyer, his voice thundered. And now, he is here. The human stood silent, confusion heavy in his mind. He had never heard of their prophecy. He had never asked to be part of it. But the crowd leaned forward, their belief stronger than his denial. The waitress rushed to his side, her hands clutching his sleeve, her voice low so only he could hear. They are telling the truth. This story has lived for centuries. I did not want to believe it, but when I saw you bend that coin, I knew you are the one they feared and waited for. The human stared at her, his eyes sharp. Why did you not tell me this before? He asked. She shook her head, her silver hair falling across her face. Because I was afraid. Because if they knew Hay would not let you live free, her voice cracked. The priest shouted louder. He is dangerous. We must decide now. Will he be worshipped or destroyed? The crowd split in two. Some cried out for protection. Others demanded his end. Chaos rose like a storm again. The human clenched his fists, his heart heavy. He had only come for rest, but now he was trapped in a story older than himself. His voice cut through the noise. I am not your prophecy. I am only a man. But no one listened. The waitress pulled him closer, her voice urgent. You must leave. If you stay, they will tear you apart. The prophecy binds them. They will not see you as human anymore. Her eyes shone with fear and something deeper, concern for him. The human looked at her, his jaw tight, his voice calm. If I leave, will they chase me? She nodded, her voice breaking. Yes, but if you stay, they will kill you here tonight. The priest raised his staff. The crowd roared. The warrior stood torn between respect and duty. The waitress tugged the human toward the back door, her voice sharp. Come with me, before it is too late. They slipped into the shadows, the crowd shouting behind them. Footsteps thundered as some tried to follow. The human and the waitress ran through narrow alleys, the city lights flickering above them. Her breath came fast, her hands clutching his arm, her voice shaking. Now you know, the truth was never about the coin. It was about what you are to us, the human who bends fate itself. The human stared ahead, his mind spinning, the weight of the hidden truth heavy on his shoulders. He whispered, then everything has changed. And behind them, the cries of the crowd echoed like a storm chasing its prey. The night swallowed the city in deep shadows. The human and the waitress ran through narrow alleys, their footsteps echoing softly against stone walls. Behind them, the noise of the crowd faded, but the fear did not leave. Every corner felt like a trap. Every shadow felt alive. The waitress clutched his arm, her silver eyes wide, her voice a whisper. They will not stop. The prophecy has spread. Priests, warriors, even the lords of the city will want you now. Her breath shook. You are no longer a traveler. You are a prize. The human frowned, his eyes scanning the streets. A prize for what? He asked, his tone calm. She swallowed hard, her voice trembling. For power, for control, for fear. If they claim you, they control the prophecy. If they kill you, they kill the danger it brings. They ducked into a ruined building, walls broken, roof leaking faint light. The human let her rest, his heart heavy. He had faced wars, storms, even death. But this was different. He had become a symbol, and symbols were hunted harder than men. The waitress sat against the wall, her hands shaking. I should not have helped you. Now they will come for me too, she whispered, but her eyes softened when she looked at him. Yet I could not leave you there, not when they would tear you apart. Before he could reply, a sharp whistle cut through the night. The sound of boots marched closer. Armored guards carrying glowing lanterns entered the alley, their leader's voice cold. Search every shadow, find the human. The waitress's breath caught. She pressed herself closer to him, her voice desperate. If they find you, they will chain you. They will drag you to the council, and the council does not forgive miracles. The human placed a hand gently on her shoulder, his voice steady. Stay calm. Fear will betray us faster than steel. His eyes locked on the moving lights, the guards spree. Add out. Searching with spears and scanners, one came close to their hiding place. His lantern light touched the corner where they crouched. The waitress squeezed her eyes shut, her whole body shaking. The human reached forward, his hand covering her mouth softly, telling her to stay silent. The guard moved on, the sound of boots fading again, for now they were safe, but not for long. The waitress whispered, her words trembling. It is only the beginning. Tomorrow hunters will come, bounty seekers, spies. They will not rest until they see you fall. She looked at him with desperate eyes. Why do you not run away? Leave this city. Leave this world. The human's gaze grew firm, his jaw tightening. Because running will not end it. Wherever I go, your people will follow with their fear. He paused, his voice lowering. And because you would still be here, alone, facing their wrath. Her eyes widened, surprise mixing with something softer. She pressed her hand against her chest, her voice breaking. You care for what happens to me. He did not answer with words, but his steady presence beside her said enough. Suddenly, from the rooftop above, a shadow leaped down, a figure cloaked in black, two burning eyes glaring through a mask. The waitress gasped. A hunter, she whispered. Suddenly, from the rooftop above, a shadow leaped down, a figure cloaked in black, two burning eyes glaring through a mask. The waitress gasped. A hunter, she whispered. The hunter's blade gleamed, his voice low and cruel. The one who bends the coin, the prophecy's stranger. Your head is worth more than gold, human. The human stepped in front of the waitress, his eyes hard, his fists ready, his voice calm. If you want me, then come take me. The fight exploded in the ruined building. The hunter fast like a shadow, blades flashing, the human blocking and dodging, each strike louder than thunder in the empty walls. The waitress cried out, hiding behind broken stones, her heart pounding with every clash. At last the human caught the hunter's wrist mid-swing, twisting it until the blade clattered to the ground, his voice steady. Enough. With a swift push, he sent the hunter crashing into the wall, stunned and broken. The hunter spat blood, his voice bitter. You cannot fight us all. For every one of me, 10 more will come. You will drown in enemies. His eyes glared before rolling shut, unconscious. The waitress rushed to the human's side, her hands touching his arm, her silver eyes shining with both fear and awe. You saved me again, but he is right. There will be more. They will never stop. The human looked down at her, his face calm, his voice heavy. Then I will never stop either. Her lips trembled, her heart racing. In that moment she realized something. This human was not just strength. He was will. He was defiance against fear itself. And perhaps that was why her people feared him more than anything. Outside, more horns blew, more voices shouted. The dangerous attention had spread beyond the cafe, beyond the market. Now the entire city hunted him, and deep in the shadows of the council hall, unseen eyes watched. Powerful lords whispered, the prop. Hesi lives, and we must decide, will the human become our weapon or our doom? The city did not sleep. Horns echoed in the night. Guards patrolled with glowing spears. Bounty hunters stalked the alleys, and high lords whispered from their towers. Every street carried the same command. Find the human, capture the prophecy. The human and the waitress hid inside an abandoned storehouse near the river. The air smelled of dust and broken wood. She sat beside him, her hands trembling, her silver eyes filled with worry. They are closing in. We cannot stay here, she whispered, her voice unsteady. The human leaned against the wall, his face calm but his mind heavy. You saved me from the council. You risked everything for me. But why? His voice was steady, searching. Her eyes flickered. Fear and hesitation danced across her face. She lowered her head, her voice soft. Because when you touched that coin, I saw what no one else did. I saw control, mercy, strength without cruelty. My people have strength, but we do not know restraint. You are different. Her breath caught. And I could not let them destroy you. Before he could answer, footsteps thudded outside. Shadows moved against the thin walls. Voices barked orders. Check inside. Do not let him escape, the waitress gasped. She grabbed his hand, pulling him toward a hidden hatch in the floor. Down here, she whispered, Lifting the cover, a tunnel stretched into darkness, damp and cold. The human hesitated, his sharp eyes studying her face. "How do I know this is not a trap?" His voice low, firm. Her lips trembled, her eyes glossy. "You do not," she admitted. "But if I wanted to betray you, I could have done it long ago." Her words cracked. "Trust me, or we both die." The human stared at her, silence heavy. Then he nodded, climbing into the tunnel. She followed quickly, closing the hatch behind them. Above, guard stormed in, their spears flashing light, but the two were gone. The tunnel stretched endlessly, water dripping from the ceiling. Their footsteps splashed softly. The waitress walked close beside him, her silver hair glowing faint in the dark. Her voice shook. "These tunnels were made by rebels long ago. My mother showed me once. She told me they lead out of the city." The human's brow furrowed. "Why would your mother show you this?" he asked. She looked away, her voice heavy. "Because she was once hunted too." Her eyes dimmed. "She saved someone, just as I saved you. And for that, she was cast out." Her confession hung in the darkness. The human's eyes softened. He realized she was risking not only her life but repeating her mother's fate. But as they walked, the sound of footsteps echoed behind them. Not just two, but many. The waitress's face paled. "They found us," she whispered. Out of the shadows, more hunters appeared, their blades gleaming. Their leader sneered, "You cannot run forever, human. And you, waitress, you should not have betrayed your kind." His voice dripped with venom. The waitress froze, fear gripping her heart. Her hands trembled. The human stepped forward, his body shielding her, his voice calm yet sharp. "If you want me, then face me, but leave her out of this." The hunters laughed. Their leader raised his weapon. "She is already marked human by helping you. She is as guilty as you." He lunged forward. The clash of steel and fist echoed through the tunnel. The human fought fiercely, his movements fast, precise. He disarmed one, crushed another's weapon with his grip, but there were too many. The waitress screamed, "Behind you!" He turned, blocking just in time, his hand catching a blade that sparked against his skin. Pain cut through his arm, but he did not stop. His voice thundered, "I said leave her!" With a powerful strike, he threw the attacker into the wall. The hunters retreated for a moment, their leader snarling, "This is not over. Others are coming. Your time is short." Then they vanished back into the dark, leaving the tunnel echoing with silence. The waitress rushed to him, tears in her eyes. "You are hurt." Her hands touched his bleeding arm, her voice trembling, but he shook his head. "It is nothing." His calm eyes fixed on her. "But you almost died because of me." Her lips quivered, her silver eyes wet. "I chose this. I knew the danger," she whispered. "I would rather stand beside you than live in fear of them." Her words carried both fear and devotion. The human looked at her, his chest heavy. For the first time he felt not only her fear but her courage, a bond forming between them stronger than prophecy. But even as silence fell, a question hung heavy in the human's mind. Was she truly guiding him to safety, or leading him deeper into a trap set by those who wanted him caught? Her words felt true, her eyes shone with honesty. Yet in this world of whispers and shadows, trust was the most dangerous choice of all. The tunnel stretched on, the sound of distant horns echoing through the stone. The human and the waitress pressed forward, unsure if they were walking toward freedom or betrayal. The tunnel opened into a wide cave, quiet and still. The ceiling high above shimmered with glowing moss. Tiny blue lights danced across the stone like stars in the dark. The human stepped forward slowly, his arm still bleeding. The waitress close behind, her breath shaky. "This place," she whispered. "It is old, forgotten. Even the council does not come here." Her voice echoed softly against the rock. Her silver eyes scanned the walls. She walked to an ancient symbol carved deep into the stone, her fingers tracing its curves. The human watched her, his voice low. "What is it?" She looked back at him, her eyes filled with both fear and wonder. "It is the seal of the first flame, the place where the prophecy was first written, where the old ones spoke of the stranger from the stars." She paused, her voice trembling. "It's you." He sighed, stepping away, his voice cold. "I am not your prophecy." But before she could speak, light erupted from the carving, golden and warm. It spread through the walls, ancient symbols awakening after centuries of silence. The cave rumbled gently, and in the center, a stone platform rose from the ground. The human's eyes narrowed, his body tense. "What is this?" The waitress stepped closer, her voice soft. "It only rises when the chosen one enters." She paused. "No one else has ever seen this. Not in my lifetime." Suddenly, more footsteps echoed from the tunnel behind them. The two spun around, blades drawn, hearts racing. But instead of hunters, the warrior from the cafe stepped into the light. Behind him, two young guards, not with weapons raised, but with heads bowed. "We came not to capture," the warrior said, his voice deep, "but to witness." He stepped aside, showing no threat. The human stood silent, unsure, but the waitress nodded slowly. They saw what happened. They heard the truth. They came to see if it was real. So, warrior approached the platform, his gaze never leaving the human. "We were told you were dangerous, a threat. But when I saw you fight, when I saw you spare me, I understood." He lowered his head. "You are not a weapon. You are a choice." The human looked at them all. The glowing room around him, the strange warmth in the air, his voice low. "I did not ask for this." The waitress stepped forward, her eyes shining with something deep. "Maybe not, but you still chose to protect, to spare, to fight only when needed." She touched his arm gently. "That is what makes you worthy." The platform glowed brighter, and the human suddenly felt something strange, like a memory that wasn't his, a voice deep inside him whispering, not in words, but in meaning. The prophecy wasn't about power. It was about change, about breaking a cycle of fear and strength without mercy. He stepped onto the platform. The light rose around him like fire, yet it did not burn. The others shielded their eyes. But the waitress looked straight into the glow, tears in her eyes. "It's real," she whispered. "He is the one." The human's body lifted slightly, his feet above the stone. The marks on the walls lit up fully now, casting light across the cave and out into the sky through cracks above. The entire city saw it, a beam of golden light shooting into the stars. People stopped in the streets, hunters froze, lords stepped onto balconies, all looking up at the beam. Silence swept across the city as if the air itself paused to watch. Inside the cave, the light slowly faded. The human lowered to the platform, his body glowing faintly, his voice soft. "It's over." The waitress ran to him, tears falling freely. She held his hand, her voice shaking. "You did it." The warrior stepped forward, bowing deeply. "From this day, no one will hunt you again. You have fulfilled what none of us believed could be true." The guards bowed too, laying their weapons at his feet. The waitress turned to him, smiling through her tears. "They finally see you for who you are." The human looked at her, his expression softening. "No, they finally saw what you always did," he said, his voice gentle. Outside, the city slowly changed, the council broken by truth, the people now whispering not in fear, but in awe. The human became more than a stranger. He became a legend. And as the sun rose the next morning, the waitress sat beside him on a hill overlooking the quiet city, her head resting gently against his shoulder. "I'm glad you stayed," she whispered. He smiled slightly, his eyes on the glowing horizon. "So am I."